answers? I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
Tonight, with Syria convulsed in revolutionary chaos, its neighbor Israel taking decisive action. Israeli warplanes carrying out strikes across the country, leaving this airbase near Damascus in flames, according to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights. The target, Israel says, military sites, including the Assad regime's stockpiles of chemical and biological weapons, which it fears could fall into the hands of extremists.
The only interest we have is the security of Israel and its citizens.
Bashar al-Assad, Syria's toppled dictator, used chemical weapons against his own people during 13 bloody years of civil war. President Obama threatened strikes in response.
A red line for us is we start seeing a whole bunch of chemical weapons moving around or being utilized.
But didn't follow through.
That was the Obama time, when Obama would often draw a line in the sand. Do not cross that line. And the enemy would, so he'd just redraw another line in the sand. And so Syria continued to operate, as it were, until recently, with the overthrow this last weekend, and Bashar al-Assad rushing into Russia for protection. And Iran is calling him out. Because they were counting on Syria to be there for them as they try to annihilate Israel. And this is raising more speculation that with Syria now falling, and of course it's still being held by terrorists, just a different brand and name, what could happen to Iran? Could Iran fall? Could the Ayatollahs be displaced? All of that's possible. I'll bring you up to speed on a lot of it right now. Thanks for joining us. Hour number one, Larry Connors USA. We're here for you every Monday through Friday from 6 to 8 p.m. 6 to 8 p.m. And reminding you, when we're on the air, we are streaming video. You can watch. You go to NewsTalkSTL, Rumble, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Larry Connors USA, Rumble, or Facebook. And if you miss anything, audio and video go up as a podcast at the completion of the broadcast. They'll be available at NewsTalkSTL Podcast, LarryConnorsUSA.com, Larry Connors USA, Facebook, or anywhere you get your podcast outlet. Glad to have you, regardless of which form you choose. Christians in Lebanon have been celebrating with the downfall of Assad. That's in Lebanon. But those in Syria are worried about their future. Because in Syria, again, there is one report of a young Christian woman leaving her house, ordered back in by those who now have control of Syria, and telling her she cannot step outside without a veil. They're going to try to impose Sharia law across Syria. And, of course, in Lebanon, as I said, they've been watching what's happening. This looked like it would be a good deal. That's meant Hezbollah is no longer going to be the force it was in Lebanon or elsewhere. It also means that Syria is no longer the direct threat it could have been, especially if Iran is not going to step up and back the latest Syrian regime. And it also means maybe Russia is pulling back some. All of these are speculations. But we do know this. Benjamin Netanyahu, on behalf of the Israeli and the Jewish people, had this statement.
This is a historic day for the Middle East. The collapse of the Assad regime, the tyranny in Damascus, offers great opportunity, but also is fraught with significant dangers. This collapse is a direct result of our forceful action against Hezbollah and Iran, Assad's main supporters. It set off a chain reaction of all those who want to free themselves from this tyranny and its oppression. But it also means we have to take action against possible threats. One of them is the collapse of the Separation of Forces Agreement from 1974 between Israel and Syria. This agreement held for 50 years. Last night it collapsed. The Syrian army abandoned its positions. We gave the Israeli army the order to take over these positions to ensure that no hostile force embeds itself right next to the border of Israel. This is a temporary defensive position until a suitable arrangement is found. Equally, we send a hand of peace to all those beyond our border in Syria, to the Jews, to the Kurds, to the Christians, and to the Muslims who want to live in peace with Israel.
Netanyahu was speaking about how his forces took over a position abandoned by Syrian troops. That's a high mount. It is high ground. It gives them about a 40-mile distance to Damascus, the heart of Syria, so they can launch rockets right into Damascus from that high ground if necessary. This had been held by Syria. Now it's in the hands of Israel, and will stay that way until, as you heard him say, we can find a way that we can peacefully move forward. I would not expect that to be anytime soon. Even the left has to admit this is a time to be strong, for our nation to stand with Israel. Tim Walz, you remember the guy, Tim Walz? Oh, yeah, the guy, big floppy hands, clown-type face, jumping around, that was trying to keep pace with Kamala Harris, going to be her VP candidate. Even he is saying, I expect now to see more pressure on Iran under Trump, less pressure on Israel. That's an astounding statement. Really? I mean, are you totally surprised? That just underscores how much idiocy exists among progressives. But at the same time, it is a fact. Yes, Iran is going to get more direct support from Trump, and Iran has reason to fear. The embargoes will be reimposed. The money lines will be shut down. All your terrorist units have already been decimated or will be. Hamas in Gaza still under attack until they release all hostages and give up everything, all strongholds. The same thing for Hezbollah in Lebanon. It is a new day. It is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to stake a flag of peace across the Middle East. It will always be wavering, but at least it's an opportunity. Retired General Jack King says one thing to keep in mind, as big of a surprise as this is, it's beneficial.
Well, certainly it's stunning and shocked everyone in terms of the speed of this. In 12 days, the regime was toppled from the time they began the attack. And kind of interesting, they began the attack when Israel and Hezbollah came to a deal. And certainly the fact that Hezbollah was not on the ground is key to this. So our audience really understands when the Assad regime was going to be toppled by its people in 2011 as a result of the Arab Spring, Iran was all in. They brought tens of thousands of Hezbollah fighters and other militia groups from Iraq and even volunteers out of Afghanistan to be the ground force because the Syrian army was incompetent. And it was led by our IRGC generals, and they lost somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 to 6 generals during that war, Iranian generals. So their commitment is extraordinary. Qasem Soleimani went to Russia in 2015 because the militia groups were regaining momentum, and the Syrian Air Force was incompetent, and their maintenance rates were off the charts. In other words, 60-70% of them couldn't fly. He persuaded Putin to put air power in there. So that is an indication of how important Syria is and was to Iran.
But now things have changed and changed dramatically. And Iran is now blaming Assad for leaving. Well, he was going to have his head removed from the rest of his body if he stayed, and he knew that. So he ran to Russia for help. Again, General Jack King.
Iran is really back on their heels. I think it provides an unbelievable opportunity for the Trump administration, in conjunction with Prime Minister Netanyahu and the allies in the region, to issue an ultimatum once he becomes president to the supreme leader. And that should say to him, stand down and dismantle your nuclear enterprise. IAEA inspectors, regional inspectors to include Israel and the United States, will help to verify. Stop supporting your proxies in the region and tell them to stand down. No more arms, no more support whatsoever.
That's huge.
If not, the alternative is this. Number one, the toughest sanctions the United States can impose will bankrupt your economy. I promise to do it. Number two, in conjunction with Israel, or if Israel wants to do it by themselves, surgical critical strikes to take down your nuclear enterprise.
Does anyone have any doubt whatsoever, that Donald Trump would not carry out exactly what General Jack King said, saying, I will bankrupt your country? And again, the Israeli Air Force will go ahead and decimate what you've got left of your nuclear production facilities. Oh, I know, you're just building them to bring your people out of the rock ages. Some experts, as I said, are predicting the Ayatollahs could lose control in Iran. Again, that would be a plus-minus in that part of the world. The sword in that region always has two edges. Every time one nation falls, you're dealing with the terrorists that took it over. It comes down to who takes the power and how they react. Now, back in the States, Black Lives Matter is back on the streets. 300, 600 marching downtown Manhattan last night.
What's his name? Jordan Neely! Say his name! Jordan Neely! What's his name? Jordan Neely! Say his
And in this case in New York, actually some of those protesters, when they start getting a little bit too raucous and a little bit violent toward police, they got arrested. Good. This is a new world order, basically dealing with these kinds of people who just want to take advantage of a situation and use it as an excuse to run rampant and cause chaos and injuries, destruction, and death. All because at New York City yesterday, New York City jury found Marine vet Daniel Penny not guilty of criminally negligent homicide in the chokehold death of Jordan Neely on that New York City subway car back in 2023. Not guilty to charges of second-degree manslaughter, not guilty to criminally negligent homicide. Alvin Bragg, when he brought the case and was going after Penny, he knew what was at stake, and he knew why he wanted to do it. Attorney Leo Terrell.
Daniel Penny is the man who showed courage and protected those passengers on the subway from a lunatic, from a person who was violent. Alvin Bragg lost today. Alvin Bragg is a failure as a DA. You see, he goes after people for political reasons. He went after Daniel Penny because the victim was black. He went after President Trump. But a jury of his peers found him not guilty of negligent homicide. Even though there were racial agitators outside trying to pressure this jury into a conviction. It's a great day for America because justice prevailed. There was no reason for Daniel Penny to be charged in the first place. He's a hero. But Alvin Bragg plays the race card.
And he did. There were minorities on the jury. There were minorities on the subway train testifying on behalf of Daniel Penny. It didn't make any difference to Bragg. Of course, the other case he has to deal with, which has a deadly ending as well, involves that New York, or rather the healthcare executive shot down in downtown Manhattan. An arrest has been made, and we're going to get into more of that in a moment. But before that, Piers Morgan had a guest on his program, and they were talking about the shooting of this healthcare exec, and the reaction was unbelievable.
I do believe in the sanctity of life, and I think that's why I felt, along with so many other Americans, joy, unfortunately, because it feels like...
Serious?
I mean...
Joy at a man's execution?
Maybe not joy, but certainly not empathy. Because again,
we're watching the footage. How can this make you joyful? This guy's a husband, he's a father, and he's being gunned down in the middle of Manhattan. Why does that make you joyful?
Of Americans that be murdered. So are the tens of thousands of Americans, innocent Americans, who died because greedy health insurance executives like this one push policies of denying care to the most vulnerable people. And the many millions of Americans that have watched people that I care about suffer and in some cases die because of lack of health care.
So should they all be killed then? Should they all be killed, these healthcare executives? Would that make you even more joyful?
No, that would not.
But why not?
And,
why are you laughing?
I think because it wouldn't fix the system.
You seem to find the whole thing hilarious.
I find your question funny.
A bloke's been murdered in the street. I don't find it funny at all.
Yeah, but she did, until you turned it on her and say, so you want all these healthcare executives slaughtered in the streets? And she laughs and says, well, no, as if that would be funny. His guest was Taylor Loran. She's ex-Washington Post reporter, now does a podcast or something of that nature. And she stated exactly what she thought in the beginning. She was joyful. And they said, well, maybe not joyful. Yeah, you were. Yes, do we have people that are suffering because medical insurance companies are not doing what they should to be helping people? Yes. But for her to say that man that was shot down the street is responsible for hundreds of lives being lost, she just made that up. She has no facts. In our second hour, Adam Schiff, now Senator Schiff, says he does not want a pardon from Joe Biden, suggesting he doesn't need one? What about the other Biden family members? And before this hour is over, what is in the sky over New Jersey lately? More and more often. But up next, Dr. Carol Lieberman, analyzing the shooter now charged with killing that healthcare executive. In custody, charged. Dr. Lieberman, lock and load, ready on the right.
You are listening to Larry Connors, USA.
My sponsor, Wellington Environmental, has helped thousands deal with hazardous materials. Hospitals, offices, schools, even homes. Here's something new. Wellington now offers dustless blasting. This is just like sandblasting, but without all the dust and emissions. Wellington uses everything from ground glass, walnuts, corn, even dry ice pellets. One university had Wellington remove their parking lot striping because dustless blasting is fast and it does not damage the concrete. So as a business or homeowner, I'm sure you could use this process. Industrial tanks, swimming pools, graffiti on buildings. And in fact, Wellington is blasting a Texaco station that will be revised as an historic building. Check the website for details and photos. WellingtonSTL.com. WellingtonSTL.com. True story. I was with Jay Ackerman, and a waitress came up and began praising Ackerman Toyota. She was afraid she might need a new car, so she had gone to Ackerman and was told, you don't really need a new car, just new tires. Obviously, tremendously relieved and thanking Jay over and over. Another example where Ackerman Toyota did what's right for her and will for you. AckermanToyota.com. Ackerman Toyota for life. John Beal knows it right after a hailstorm. New roofing companies start popping up everywhere. But the Small Business Administration reports 96% of them go out of business within the first 5 years. So how good is that warranty? John Beal started in the roofing business, helping his granddad and his dad. Always offering the best roof, best price, best guarantee. John Beal Roofing, not some fly-by-the-night operation. Call my friend John, 1-800-NEW-ROOF, 1-800-NEW-ROOF.
This is News Talk STL.
I am flesh and I am bone. Rise up, ting ting like glitter and gold. I got fire in my soul. Rise up, ting ting like glitter. Like glitter and gold. Like glitter. Do you walk in the valley of kings?
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
The 26-year-old arrested for shooting down the health insurance CEO in Midtown Manhattan comes from a wealthy Baltimore family, Ivy League graduate, high school valedictorian. Those who knew him said, well, it makes no sense, but this was, again, a guy who had a privileged upbringing, and all the Ivy School education could be stuffed into his head at the time. What went wrong and where? Well, joining us to take a closer look at it best she can, Dr. Carol Lieberman, known worldwide as Dr. Carol's Couch on VoiceOfAmerica.com, and, of course, has her own podcast and 2 books on terrorism, Lions, Tigers, and Terrorists, and the podcast Terror Coming to a Stadium or Concert Near You. Dr. Lieberman, glad to have you with us.
Thank you.
So what was your reaction first when you began to hear the background of the man charged with this killing?
Well, my first comments about it had to do with, I said that it was someone who had a loved one who died or was not able to get sufficient treatment because the insurance company wouldn't pay them enough to get the treatment that they need, so they died. And of course, now it seems, and that still might be true, his grandparents died, but now that we know that his family is so wealthy, you know, you would think that they would have been able to pay for any shortfall that the insurance company wouldn't have paid for. But now also we know that, but you know, sometimes, even though a person is willing to pay the difference, sometimes there's still some mix-ups with the medical system, and they insist on it being insurance, or it gets kind of complicated.
Well, he put in a manifesto. He basically referred to them as these parasites had it coming.
Right. And so now we know that he too had a medical condition, that he had a back condition, a back injury, and he had back surgery, spinal surgery. And so, you know, it could have had something to do with him, that he wasn't treated right with the insurance. And, and also he volunteered, or I presume he volunteered, because I would hope he didn't take payment, but at his family's old age home. And so perhaps he saw, if you know what happened to these patients, the people in the old age home, how they hadn't gotten enough, been paid enough, hadn't the insurance give them enough money to get the proper treatment, and therefore they ended up in this old age home with lots of problems. Something like that. It has to be something personal.
I think we all see things like that in our own circle of friends, neighbors, relatives. But what pushed him over the edge, again, coming out of Ivy League schools, did the leftist propaganda in those schools push him?
Yes, obviously, yes. That is another part of this. Unfortunately, and it seems that it's especially, ironically, at Ivy League schools, you know, where the people who go there for the most part have a lot of money, but they teach them, you know, to hate America and to hate capitalism. That, you know, it's always easy to hate capitalism when you already have a lot of money.
Right, yeah.
You know?
I've been rich and I've been poor. Rich is better.
Yes, right. So that is a part of it too, you know, being raised in this culture, being taught in this culture. And of course, now it's not just colleges. I mean, really, all these things are starting in elementary school. All these, you know, the wrong history, mistaken history, giving people the wrong impression that why we should hate America instead of being proud of it and all of that. So there's all of that that adds to it. And what I think is that apparently this back injury, of course we're finding out more and more things every day.
Right.
But so, this is based upon what we know so far.
and we're expressly stating you don't have direct contact with the case or the man. Go ahead.
Exactly. Yes. If I did, he'd be in much better shape.
I'm sure of that.
But I think that what another piece of this might well be that his back injury, which apparently has caused him to not be able to do a lot of things, like sex, or I mean, of course, I don't know that he's unable to have sex, but things like sex or sports or things like that would cause a lot of pain and probably re-injure him also. So he might well feel, because he was someone who had a lot of dreams, a lot of ambition, and he might well feel that these ambitions have been squelched, and this could be his last hurrah. He wanted, I'm not sure if you heard or watched his graduation speech. He was the valedictorian.
Right.
And he gave this speech, and he talked about his class and how they give a nod to tradition, but what he was really proud of was that they've made a lot of innovation. And for example, he talked about how there used to be 2 recess periods, and his class created a 3rd recess period. In the morning. I mean,
that's innovation. Good God.
Yes, right.
And this is coming from an Ivy League school. I would expect I would expect you to come up with something a little bit better than that, right?
Wait. But this is when he was in high school, and recess is important when you're in high school.
Yeah.
But his point was that rather than waste the time just sitting in the hall before school starts, looking at each other, that they created something that they could do during that period. And he mentioned some other things too. I don't know. That's the one that stuck with me.
Well, the other thing, Dr. Carol Lieberman, that comes out of this, before you joined us, I was using a clip of a guest that Piers Morgan had on, Taylor Lorenz, ex-Washington Post reporter, now has her own Substack or podcast, whatever. And she was basically laughing about it and saying, good, that she felt no remorse, no pity that this businessman was shot down in the street, claiming without any substantiation he's responsible for hundreds of deaths, talking about the insurance company in general. But what has happened, there are more and more that are lining up in that position that I do hate the healthcare company. We have not been getting the treatment. And, they're not feeling the empathy, certainly sympathy.
Yes. There are a lot of people who connected to and appreciated what he did. Not that killing this one man is going to, change the whole insurance industry. But actually, it's funny. So far, a lot of businesses, companies have the change they have made is to get more security for their CEOs. That's not the point.
I have no doubt.
The point is to rethink what you're denying for patients. That's the point. So I think that this man, Luigi, wanted to go out in a flash. Wanted to go in a bang. Like he always wanted to do something for the world. And I think that this was his last hurrah. That he wanted to get attention for some issue that he really felt strongly about, and this is what he was going to do. So I hope that they have him on suicide watch, because I think that this was in his plans.
But what do you see for the nation going forward with this? This is one way to fight back.
Well, I don't think we should kill insurance CEOs, but I do think attention needs to be brought to this whole issue of insurance companies denying things so that they can get rich. They can pay executives $10 million a year,
right?
And they steal and kill patients. Certainly in psychiatry, it has turned the psychiatry mental health field upside down, because they realized several years ago that it's cheaper to pay a psychologist or a social worker or a marriage and family therapist to do therapy and just pay psychiatrists to give out psychiatric medication. And so a lot of psychiatrists, in order to keep making any money, they have become pill pushers.
Let me ask you, I'm sorry. In our closing minutes, I want to ask your opinion of a statement by Thomas Sowell at one point. And for the audience, he's with the Hoover Institute, 94 years of age, extremely intelligent. He said, activism is a way for useless people to feel important, even if the consequences of their activism are counterproductive for those they claim to be helping and damaging to the fabric of society as a whole. Does that sum up where we are with this case?
Well, I think not necessarily. I think it very much depends on what you're being active about. You know, there are activists that have brought about good things,
right?
But then we have the marches or riots, really, after George Floyd.
But those who are happy that the CEO was killed.
What about those who are happy? I'm not saying that it's good to be happy that that anybody was killed.
Right.
But I do think that I hope that this does bring a change to the insurance industry. I hope the insurance companies think about this more.
Well, to that extent, one of the insurance companies, I don't know the exact timing, was going to shortchange anesthesiology. If the surgeon wasn't done in time, then they were not going to pay for you to be under for the rest of the surgery. And they changed that, so we'll see where it goes. Dr. Carol Lieberman, as always, I thank you very much for your insight.
You're very welcome.
You bet. Dr. Carol Lieberman, again, you can follow her in various ways, and one thing is her books on terrorism. One in particular you might want to pick up, Terror Coming to a Stadium or Concert Near You. That's her podcast, the book Lions, Tigers, and Terrorists. Coming up, how some of the folks out there are absolutely going to do everything they can to destroy Trump, and yet they're still praising those that they don't like until they realize they're with Trump.
You can connect with Larry on Twitter at Larry Connors USA.
I've got a phone number for you and a website where you can take a free, quick survey to learn how to use artificial intelligence, AI, to put your company on a fast track to the future. Here's the number. It's a 636 area code, 636-689-0545, 689-0545. This is PRI Global. And recently, the St. Louis Business Journal named PRI Global as a leading IT consulting company. 25 years working with hundreds of companies, several Fortune 500, locally and around the world. PRI Global has its own AI lab to develop what's best for your company. Take the free survey and be on your way to the future. 636-689-0545, 689-0545, or go direct PRIGlobal.ai, PRIGlobal.ai. Want a special gift for someone who enjoys a good cigar or premium whiskey? Head for Lit Cigar Lounge in the district of Chesterfield Valley. You'll also find amazing, unusual lighters and ashtrays. You can't decide? Get a gift card. When you finish, walk a few doors down and enjoy Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta. The pizza baked in a coal-fired oven. Select from the menu or design your own. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta. This hour of Larry Connors USA brought to you by my friends at Renewal by Anderson. And listen to this. Renewal is having a killer of a sale. Buy any window or door. Get a second one, 50% off, 0 interest, no payments for 18 months. Renewal has the most 5-star reviews of any full-service window company. Simply dial pound 250, pound 250, and say the key word, windows.
This is News Talk STL.
Well, you can tell by the way I use my walk, I'm a woman's man, no time to talk. Music loud, women walk, being kicked around since I was born. Never tolerate, I'm okay, and you may look the other way, but we can try to understand, do your time, the man, whether you're a brother or whether you're a mommy, staying alive.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
I might be deported because I'm a naturalized citizen. And Stephen Miller, who is Donald Trump's deputy chief of staff, has said that they're going to embark on a denaturalization program. So I could be deported, my citizenship could be taken away, and my children could be deported because they have birthright citizenship. So this is not what the country voted for. Let's be very clear. Americans voted for Trump because of groceries, because of lowering costs. He has not talked about that one bit. What this country did not vote for is to deport the 11 million undocumented immigrants who do critical work for our economy, who have injected $7 trillion into our economy. And what Americans want is a solution to immigration.
That's one of the wackos appearing on CNN and saying that I could be deported. She's an American citizen. She was born on the soil, so she is an American citizen. We're not going to go back and take everyone that was born on the U.S. soil and deport them. This would be going forward. We know that, and the leftists know it. But that doesn't scare the bejesus out of so many. So what they need to say is, if you came here by your grandparents illegally decades ago, then all of you will be gathered up and deported. No, that is not at all what we're doing. Trump has said we need to end birth of on the U.S. soil makes you a U.S. citizen. No other country has that. The U.S. allows it. And that is why we saw during the Obama years and during the Biden years, even before the border was open, illegals, I should correct that, citizens from other countries flying into our nation, maybe for the last trimester of a pregnancy, so their child would be born in the U.S. and therefore have a U.S. citizenship, which is legal as it stands now. That's what Trump is talking about doing. And yes, he did talk about deporting. And he has continued to talk about deporting. Very first person he appointed was a border czar to get the illegals out of our country. And that's those who've been coming across through the Biden years. Have some of them come across during that time and had children? Yes. As Trump said, if we need to deport the parent, we may have to deport the child with them because I assume they want to stay together as a family. The option is for the illegals who are here and know they came across and fear they might be grabbed up at some point, go ahead and deport yourself. Go back to your country. And then apply to come back in for you and your family. We've got many on a waiting list right now. I checked the number the other day, and I don't want to even cite the number. I'd probably be off, but we've got thousands that are waiting their chance to come to our country legally to become a U.S. citizen. We've got many in this country now that came here legally, waiting to become a U.S. citizen. But what they want to do on the left is continue to fearmonger and scare others. And, oh, my God, they'll be taking families and babies out, and they'll take my child out of my arms. That's not at all. And, yes, Trump is also addressing the cost of living and the cost of everything by putting the DOGE agreement together with Vivek and Elon to get in and find out what kind of government waste do we have that we can stop spending and give it to the American people and help them. But another example of someone who wants to buy into, we got to label everything Trump does and is presenting as something he might do as a disaster for our country, if not for our family. Perfect example here is a University of Wisconsin professor.
So what's the bad news? We have a psychopath that's going to be the head of Health and Human Services in RFK Jr. He's against vaccines. He's a moron. That's not a political thing. That's a fact, okay? And I am concerned that if we do have a pandemic with him in charge, he's going to be talking about crystals and meditation, all right? Ignore people like that, and I charge you guys with educating your friends and family. Hopefully, this doesn't happen, all right? Now that I've scared you to death, Let's move on.
Yeah, see? I want to scare you to death. And by the way, he's University of Wisconsin. And we've seen enough folks come out of there that scare me anyway. Another lefty loony here in this case saying RFK Jr. will be against vaccinations. He has not been against them. He wants better approval processes and certainly did not like the way the last ones were rolled out and how they were administered. Many Americans didn't. And we're seeing more and more diseases linked to them and in turn linked to Big Pharma making its profits. You got Big Pharma making profits off people getting sick one way or the other. You've got the health insurance companies making money off of you one way or the other. Yeah, a lot of people in the nation are upset and angry. Hopefully not to the extent as a shooter did in Manhattan the other day. But whatever is presented as possibly good and better has to be trashed. It has to be trashed because all the Trump people are garbage. We've already been told that. Well, the people of the U.S. of A. outnumbered the others. So I guess the trash heap is bigger than you thought it was. And actually, it's not a trash heap. It's a heap to build our country back on. But if you cross the line, you can be welcomed by the left and they'll embrace you until you make it clear that I've been misled and I'm not going to go down that road anymore. One perfect example. Tulsi Gabbard was a Democrat, beloved, even praised, until she turned Republican. But listen to how all those around her praised her before she became a Republican.
Watch out for the next superstar.
Here we go. We're talking about her off air all week. Here we go.
Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard is a rising star in this party. Tulsi Gabbard should be here tonight. The reality is we do not have enough young veterans in this party, enough young women in this party, enough people of color in this party.
You're considered a rising star in the Democratic Party. You had a position of leadership in the Democratic National Committee.
Tulsi's story is really, I think, tailor-made for Hollywood. I half expect Natalie Portman to be vying for the role any day now because this story is not to be believed.
Tulsi Gabbard, she is going to be the one to watch tonight at the DNC.
And Tulsi Gabbard, she's an Iraq War veteran.
Yeah.
Yesterday, she was promoted from captain to major in the Hawaii National Guard. So she certainly is a rising star. The fact that she's not here tonight for whatever reason is unfortunate.
I don't know, but in a battle, I want her in my trench. I tell you that much.
Me too.
Yeah, me too. Oh, no, wait. She's changed her stripes. She's no longer wearing the uniform I like. She's an American, but she's a Republican. Darn it. Then you get Liz Cheney, Rhino Republican, again pushing the fact that Trump mobilized an angry mob, sent them to the U.S. Capitol, where they attacked police, invaded the building, halted the counting of electoral votes. This is her saying, Liz Cheney, he mobilized an angry mob when that's not all what he did. Sunday, as we pointed out yesterday, Trump was on Meet the Press with Kristen Walker for the first sit-down interview since the election. And he indicated he would not explicitly order those he's appointed to top positions to go after political enemies. But he did reference jailing members who served on the House panel that investigated January 6th, calling Cheney's actions inexcusable. And Trump said, honestly, they should go to jail, the panel's members, because they jailed American citizens under the cover of a law that they simply made up. But that's the way they play the game, and we know that. And the latest out of New York in reference to the civil fraud judgment, multi-million-dollar fraud against Trump, the New York Attorney General saying it will not drop that civil fraud case despite his request. Letitia James wants to go ahead and continue to prosecute, nail to the cross Donald Trump. And they wonder why they get no support from many other Americans. They wonder why even many in the minority community said, we watched that story. We've heard that line before. You lied to us then. You're lying to us now. We're not going to buy it anymore. It is not just white men buying the story. It's men and women of different colors, different ethnicities, different religions, recognizing we can be a good and a great nation again. But we're going to have the naysayers every step of the way. They will not fall in line. They're going to look for every opportunity they can to shout out like they were doing in Manhattan last night. Daniel Penny should have been basically convicted of murdering Jordan Neely on that subway train. They will not stand for a true justice decision. So they want to go out in the streets and march and protest. Well, that's their First Amendment right as long as they do it abiding by the First Amendment. For several nights, there have been hundreds of reports of strange blinking objects flying over the Northeast, especially the New Jersey area. What are they? Do they pose a threat? That story when we continue.
You are listening to Larry Connors, USA.
The Napoli heritage of fine dining continues with Napoli Kirkwood. Napoli Kirkwood, now open. So add that to Cafe Napoli in Clayton, Napoli 2 in Town and Country, Napoli 3 in St. Charles, right next door to Napoli C, and don't forget about Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in the district, Chesterfield Valley. All of those locations, plus now, open Napoli Kirkwood.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
Let me say most importantly right up front, we see no evidence, and I say we, this includes Homeland Security, FBI, Secret Service, our state police, authorities at all levels of government. The most important point to say is we don't see any concern for public safety. That's number one. Number two, having said that, it's really frustrating that we don't have more answers as to where they're coming from and why they're doing what they're doing. We had last night 49 sightings. I think 20 of them were over Hunterdon. Now those include, I think I saw one mistaken a fixed-wing aircraft, a plane, a small Piper Cub, for instance, for a drone, or you saw one and that counts, and then I saw the same one and that counts. So we think these are overstated, but it's a non-zero number. I was on with the White House and Homeland Security leadership literally at the very top yesterday for pretty much all day. I'm hoping we'll get answers sooner than later. I would just ask folks to continue to let the FBI or their local law enforcement know when they see something, and we'll continue to do everything we can with our federal partners to get clearer answers.
New Jersey Governor Murphy trying to explain to reporters, we're aware of these. I've seen them. We don't know what they are, but they're no threat. Well, I'm looking at some reactions, some New Jersey residents. They're not happy with his remarks. One of them in particular said, whatever the governor said was, first of all, really no answers. Whatever the governor put out was a no answer. It did not make me feel any better. Folks, don't be frightened of lights in the sky. They may or may not be drones. They've had reports of them in one particular part of New Jersey, groups of them going back and forth, maybe coordinated with drones that are operated by numerous people at one time. But they're just frightened. I don't know even how to begin to try to tell the people you're worried about flashing lights in the sky, and you're not worried about millions of illegals in your neighborhood that might be causing chaos and possible murder. I think you've been watching First Encounter too many times. Or maybe you've been listening to my friend George late at night, and you've been picking up on all of these. It's interesting, but there are always still going to be those that say it is a government plot and they're setting up to do something. Then the question should be, is it our government? And what are they planning to do? So much concerned about these lights in the sky where that part of the New Jersey and that area. An FBI spokesman had to even comment saying, "We don't have many answers. We don't want to guess or hypothesize about what's going on. We're doing all we can to figure it out." But the conspiracy theorists, they come forward, they'll fill in the gaps for you. They'll always do that. Well, again, we had a balloon cross our nation, and no one seemed to be that worried about that. Coming up, now Senator Schiff says, "I don't need no stinking pardon." Really? I want to reconsider. Remember our pledge, one nation under God.
You can hear podcasts of this program at Larry Connors USA Facebook. Larry Connors USA Facebook.
John Beal knows that new roofing companies can look big and trustworthy on the internet, but the fact is 96% of new roofing companies go out of business within the first 5 years. John Beal has a reputation for excellence, reliability, plus lowest cost, best roof, best guarantee. Those here today, gone tomorrow roofers, they can't match John Beal. For home or business, trust my friend John. 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF. There's no pizza like Napoli Brothers Pasta and Pizza in the district Chesterfield Valley. That's because in Napoli, your pizza is in a coal-fired oven. One taste, you're going to want more. Grab a gift card, good for all Napoli locations. And a few doors down, enjoy the atmosphere of Lit Cigar Lounge. High-end cigars, single-barrel whiskey. Before you leave, pick up gift cards for family and friends at Lit Cigar Lounge. True story. I was with Jay Ackerman, and a waitress came up and began praising Ackerman Toyota. She was afraid she might need a new car, so she had gone to Ackerman and was told, "You don't really need a new car, just new tires." Obviously, tremendously relieved and thanking Jay over and over. Another example where Ackerman Toyota did what's right for her and will for you. AckermanToyota.com. Ackerman Toyota for life. Here's some expert advice from McGuire Moving and Storage. If you have a home or business move coming up, you need to book now. Most moving companies are booked 6 to 8 weeks out. So call McGuire now, get an on-site estimate, set a date. McGuire has 85 years of experience and just won the Spire Quality Award. I can personally testify McGuire goes above and beyond to help the clients. McGuire Moving and Storage. McGuireMoving.com. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta, now open in the district of Chesterfield Valley. Napoli has the only coal-fired pizza oven. That means an incredible taste you cannot get anywhere else. So enjoy a unique pizza at Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in the district. And then walk a few doors down and enjoy premium cigars and drinks at Lit Cigar Lounge. There's a perfect way to end the evening. Napoli Pizza followed by Lit Cigar Lounge. A winning combination. So many times, Vincent's Jewelers has helped me surprise someone special. Vincent's locally owned can do the same for you, and you don't have to break the bank to get something really nice, maybe even customized. The smile you're going to get back from that special someone, priceless. Check VincentsJewelers.com every day because new items are arriving and there are special deals. Vincent's, my only jeweler. VincentsJewelers.com. VincentsJewelers.com. I can tell you how to get a free quick quiz to see how artificial intelligence can boost your company's potential. You go to priglobal.ai, priglobal.ai. St. Louis Business Magazine listing PRI as one of the leading IT companies, and PRI has its own AI lab to develop what your business needs. priglobal.ai, priglobal.ai.
This is News Talk STL.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
I don't think it's a good idea, and I would urge the president not to do that. First of all, I think it's unnecessary, but I also think it's unwise. I don't want to see a precedent where you start to have presidents on the eve of leaving office issuing blanket pardons to people of their own party or of their own administration. That, I think, would tend to encourage people to feel they're not beholden to the law because the outgoing president will give them a prospective pardon. So I think it's unwise policy, and I would urge the president not to go down that road.
There is one guy right there that probably should need a presidential pardon, but he's trying to put himself above it and suggesting, because he's already heard the rumors, if you are being pardoned, you must have done something wrong, right? You're not going to pardon somebody because they didn't do anything. I pardon you for going to Cuba. I never went to Cuba. Okay, well, if you did, you're pardoned. That was Adam Schiff. As I told you yesterday, California Governor Newsom decided to take the existing senator that was already replaced by the last election by Schiff to go ahead and get him to leave office early. I don't know, did they dangle carrots in front of him or did they give him a boot in the butt or both? But they got him to get out of office so the office was vacant, and so Newsom could quickly appoint Adam Schiff as the new senator from California, giving him an advantage in seniority when others are coming aboard in January. But Adam Schiff is saying, no, I don't think it's a good idea to have a blanket pardon for the president. He says that, but this is the same guy. This is the same guy that said, I've got proof, and I've got a witness who would testify that Donald Trump was involved in Russian collusion. And we never saw the proof in any fashion. I do think that he might want to reconsider that. Maybe he'll want a pardon down the road. There are many already lining up to try to make sure they get to be a part of a pardon. And I'll give you details of that in a moment. But first, welcome aboard hour number 2 of Larry Connors USA. Glad to be with you and glad to have you with us. We're here every Monday through Friday from 6 to 8 p.m. right here on NewsTalkSTL. And reminding you, while we're on the air, we are streaming video. You can watch. How do you do that? You go to NewsTalkSTL Rumble, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or Larry Connors USA Rumble or Facebook. And if you miss anything, pull it up as a podcast later, video and audio, at NewsTalkSTL Podcast, Larry Connors USA Facebook, LarryConnorsUSA.com. And I'm willing to bet many of you listening over those last few moments could recite that word for word. I do repeat it every day. The reason I do is because we continue to gain more and more audience. And we want to make sure everybody is aware of what's happening. But I do appreciate all of you whenever you come aboard, either if you're listening now or you join and listen later. Now, back to this pardon issue. There are those, according to The Hill, liberal pundits and press in D.C. are facing a growing nightmare. No, it's not the victory of Trump or the Democrats' loss of both houses of Congress and the popular vote. It is a possibility that democracy may not collapse as they predicted, and Trump might not even round up his appointments or his opponents en masse. That's what they were saying. Look, if he's elected, be a dictator, our democracy will be over. He'll round everybody up and ship them off to the gulag. For months, they have been telling voters that's going to be what is happening, insisting again, as Whoopi Goldberg did on ABC, on The View, saying Trump will immediately become a dictator who, quote, will put you people away, take all the journalists, take all the gay folks, move you all around and disappear you. The only thing that might have disappeared following his election is not democracy, but the Democrat Party. In the meantime, we have a lot of Democrats that have been trying to line up. While Schiff says, I don't want a pardon, there are those who do, because they know that they might be caught in trouble, specifically the January 6th committee. That would include Schiff and Pelosi and the rest of them. But it also includes these George Soros-appointed prosecutors for how they did not carry out justice, how they scammed the law and the people they were supposed to be serving. Brings to mind one named Kim Gardner of St. Louis. And yes, her attorneys already filed for a pardon from Donald Trump for her sins. But Biden is beginning to realize that maybe the issue with all of these people that have been trying to hide is because they do have reason to hide. And they did do things wrong on his watch. Senator Tommy Tuberville says, you look at Biden family in general, and then you look at the Clintons, there's a whole lot of crime to investigate.
What'd you think on Biden pardoning his son after saying he wouldn't?
Well, and I said this the other day to a gaggle of media up here. I mean, there had to be 100 of them. First of all, that's his son. Most parents would do that. Here's what I don't like. Number one, it's the most corrupt political family, even more than the Clintons, that's been in politics all their life. They have taken millions of dollars from Ukraine, from China. It's a known fact. The money has gone into the banks, millions of dollars to grandkids, the kids, to the Biden himself. They made a fortune off this country, off the American taxpayers. They haven't paid taxes on it. The kid is a drug addict. He'll never get off crack. He can't get off of it. This is not the big pardon. I think the pardons coming down the road with his brother and the rest of his family members are going to be the ones that everybody's going to look around and go, what? I mean, what do they need pardons for?
Yeah. If you didn't do anything wrong, you don't need a pardon, right? The Federalist has out a piece titled, Even Joe Biden, who nominated Eric Garland, appears to have caught on to the fact that the DOJ was infected with partisan corruption. You know why they'd be recognizing that now? Because they actually did prosecute his son. They tried to put together that sweetheart deal. It fell apart. The author of this piece points out, I was personally surprised when I saw that MSNBC and a CNN contributor declared Garland to be, quote, America's worst attorney general. The writer says, I'm wondering if it finally dawned on someone in our corporate press that smearing parents as domestic terrorists and prosecuting political opponents of no less stature than a president might have been a bad idea. Said no, it apparently did not at that point. And according to the one that was calling Garland out, he said the issue really was Garland was trying hard to throw his boss's presidential opponent in prison, but didn't try hard enough. And for that reason, Garland is considered, quote, the biggest failure of an attorney general in our lifetimes. And then adds in this Federalist article, even Joe Biden, who nominated Garland, appears to have caught on to the fact now that the DOJ is infected with partisan corruption. Biden accused Garland's department of singling out certain targets based on political reasons. You know why he did that? Because it involved his family. How dare you come after my family? You're my Department of Justice head. come so close to shedding a tear for Garland. He's caught between that proverbial rock and a hard place. Being pulverized by the right because he was constantly going after those that believed in MAGA and Trump. And now Biden on the left is pushing on him, saying, you're corrupt. You let politics interfere. Just last Sunday, in a letter absolving Hunter of any of his federal crimes, Biden wrote, "Raw politics has infected this process." Now, there are reports that Biden didn't really write that letter, that Hunter Biden did. But he wanted to make sure a statement was put out. And then the word was sent out, "I pardon my son." I know I said I wouldn't, but as a father, I'm going to. Yeah, it has been raw politics, and it has infected our highest law agency, the DOJ, the FBI, the CIA, not to mention Department of Health, NIH, CDC, and so forth. And, of course, those against Trump are going to continue to fight against him every step of the way. Every step of the way. One of the things Trump wants to do is, and is threatening to do so, and will put tariffs on nations if they do not walk a line that would be beneficial for America. And if they're going to be doing things contrary to our basic well-being, he would impose tariffs on them. If they're going to try to jack prices up on Americans, he'll turn around and shove it back in their face. Well, a lot of the left are saying, well, that's not the way to use tariffs. That would be wrong. That would be punitive. From Louisiana comes the common spoken and well-meaning and certainly common sense Senator Jack Kennedy.
There's an old saying, exercise makes you look better naked, but so does alcohol. And I say that because tariffs are a little bit like whiskey. It depends on the circumstances. A little whiskey sometimes can make the world look better. Now, too much will make you sick and it'll hurt you. I have never seen President Trump as this wild-eyed protectionist. I think he's, for the most part, always used tariffs selectively. It depends on the circumstances. I expect him to use them selectively this time. You can use tariffs to raise money. You can use tariffs to try to convince your neighbors to change their policy. We are, after all, the greatest economy in all of human history. But too often, the experts, when they talk about tariffs, they focus only on the impact on other countries. How about let's focus on America?
Right. Why not focus on America? And you're correct. You're correct. I did say Senator Jack Kennedy. It's Senator John Kennedy. I'll admit something to you. I knew he was going to be talking about whiskey, and so Jack just jumped in my mind. I'll take the blame for that. That folksy humor might be just too much for progressives who plan to attack anything and everything the Trump administration will do, and that is not a warning. That is a clear fact. And here's another fact as expressed by attorney Leo Terrell, referenced Daniel Penny being found not guilty.
Daniel Penny is the man who showed courage and protected those passengers on the subway from a lunatic, from a person who was violent. Alvin Bragg lost today. Alvin Bragg is a failure as a DA. You see, he goes after people for political reasons. He went after Daniel Penny because the victim was black. He went after President Trump. But a jury of his peers found him not guilty of negligent homicide. Even though there were racial agitators outside trying to pressure this jury into a conviction. It's a great day for America because justice prevailed. There was no reason for Daniel Penny to be charged in the first place. He's a hero. But Alvin Bragg plays the race card.
And Leo Terrell, attorney, you often see him on Fox News, ACLU attorney, says there's no reason Penny should have ever been charged to begin with. Witnesses on the subway car said they were fearing for their lives. Others said they thought he did a good thing, but Bragg saw a chance to get headlines for himself again. So with the attitude that Perry was found innocent, found not guilty, that doesn't stop those who still demand that this was a crime because it was a white man who took down a black man, and yet many on that subway at that hour were also black. He was protecting them. Forget that. Just look at the fact that you had an attacker who was white, if you want to call Perry the attacker, when it was really the other guy to begin with, Jordan Neely. That's all you need to light a fuse and say, time for mob action.
What's his name? Jordan Neely! Say his name! Jordan Neely! What's his name? Jordan Neely! Say his name! Get back! No justice! No peace! No peace! Police! No justice! No peace! No justice! No peace!
No justice, no peace. There were some arrests. New York City police did carry out some arrests. Now, we'll see how the prosecutor's office, basically all put there by George Soros, will end up handling it. And they are entitled to march through the streets and chant and do everything like that. That is guaranteed under the First Amendment. But if then they begin to battle with police or cause damage, destruction, New York City police had orders to move in and take them down. Could this be a turn for the good in our country? That we're no longer going to put up with the kind of nonsense we saw a few summers ago? Good. And Trump isn't even in office yet. Coming up, a guest on Piers Morgan laughing about that healthcare executive murdered in Manhattan. We'll have the latest on the suspect as well. Before this hour is over, Rachel Madcow doing her best to mock Donald Trump. And I'm not totally against what she's saying. You'll want to hear it. Lock and load. Ready on the right.
You are listening to Larry Connors, USA.
Wellington Environmental knows this is a rough time for many people, just struggling to make ends meet, and here come the holidays. Wellington is an advisor to the Salvation Army Gateway Citadel. They need more bell ringers, and Wellington has some spots in South County you could help fill. If you sign up 6 or more to ring a bell for at least an hour, Wellington Environmental will make a customized sign to sit on top of the red kettle for free. Put your company name, your team name, your family name, whatever you want. Call Wellington, 314-644-4930. 644-4930. WellingtonSTL.com does the same thing. WellingtonSTL.com. Ring a bell this season and help others. One of the greatest pleasures in life is giving. Giving something special to someone just because. Vincent's Jewelers can help you, and you should know that Vincent's has helped raise almost $2 million for local charities. Vincent's Jewelers, St. Louis's premier, full-service, locally owned jewelry store. Check VincentsJewelers.com every day for new items. VincentsJewelers.com. My only jeweler, VincentsJewelers.com. I want you to know that McGuire Moving and Storage is Silver certified, which means McGuire has a quality reputation helping older adults move local or long distance. And something else to know. Josh McGuire, president of McGuire Moving and Storage, is the only certified moving consultant in Missouri. I'll tell you, once you met Josh, you're going to know your move will be easy. And I fully endorse McGuire Moving and Storage. McGuireMoving.com.
This is News Talk STL.
Must be the whiskey. I've been drinking to remember and drinking to forget. I got I love you on my mind. I got Jim Beam on my breath, and loneliness has got the rest. I've got nothing left within me. It must be the whiskey.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
I do believe in the sanctity of life, and I think that's why I felt, along with so many other Americans, joy, unfortunately, because it feels like...
Serious?
I mean...
Joy at a man's execution?
Maybe not joy, but certainly not empathy. Because again,
we're watching the footage. How can this make you joyful? This guy's a husband, he's a father, and he's being gunned down in the middle of Manhattan. Why does that make you joyful?
Thousands of Americans that be murdered. So are the tens of thousands of Americans, innocent Americans, who died because greedy health insurance executives like this one push policies of denying care to the most vulnerable people. And the many millions of Americans that have watched people that I care about suffer and in some cases die because of lack of health care.
So should they all be killed then? Should they all be killed, these healthcare executives? Would that make you even more joyful?
No, that would not.
Well, why not?
And,
why are you laughing?
I think because it wouldn't fix the
You seem to find the whole thing hilarious.
I find your question funny.
A bloke's been murdered in the street. I don't find it funny at all.
And Piers Morgan's questions weren't the issue, dear. It was you, and you stating, I find joy in the fact that this healthcare CEO was gunned down in Manhattan the other day. I find joy. And then making up stats and saying that man is responsible for killing thousands of Americans. He and his company and others like him. Talking about the United Healthcare CEO, Brian Thompson, gunned down in New York City the other day. I'll have more details on him in a moment, but first of all, I want to put to rest a couple points made by this guest that was on Piers Morgan. Taylor Lorenz, ex-Washington Post reporter, I think now she has a podcast, a Substack or something, as if I could care. But she wants to say, I believe in the sanctity of life, but I was glad to see him go down, be shot down in the street. She has no idea what the man has or has not done at any point in his life in denying claims for someone that needed medical care and they were not getting it from their insurance company. We all, I think I can speak collectively, have had complaints against our insurance companies from time to time that they're not giving us the protection and the services we thought they should. And it's not only health insurance, car insurance, home insurance, the whole gauntlet, the entire insurance industry. And I've got a lot of friends that work in it, and they're good people. But then they have these dictates that are lined up as to you have to meet this criteria to get this kind of coverage or you don't. And the other day, a division of Blue Cross Blue Shield chose Missouri and 2 other states. They were going to basically say, if a surgery is expected and approved, but it's not over by a certain time, then we're not going to pay for you to be giving anesthetics through the rest of the surgery. You might wake up in surgery while they've got your chest open, unless you want to pay for it by yourself. They've since withdrawn from that, and good. I don't recall the timing, reference the healthcare CEO being shot down and them making the decision to say we're not going to go ahead with that plan. But the fact that it was even considered at some point by somebody says there's an issue with healthcare in particular. Had a good doctor friend. He was an OBGYN for decades. Loved his work, loved, bringing children into the world. And then later seeing them graduate from high school, even go to college, But he left as a doctor and joined a health care plan. And he did it because, as he told me at the time, there are too many restrictions on things that I think my patients need, and they're not getting it. The health insurance plan will not cover them. And I think they need it, but it will not be covered. So he said, I left the profession to join one of these healthcare companies, thinking I could maybe, by being inside, I could be on that board that looks at an application from a doctor and say, yes, obviously that needs to be covered. Because he knew the ones that were observing and looking at his request were rejecting them. Unfortunately, he found out that even from the inside, there was too much bureaucracy and red tape in place where he could not really do anything to change it. So this guy gets arrested the other day, 26-year-old son of a wealthy Baltimore family, high school valedictorian, Ivy League graduate. He had a active social media for years, but then just disappeared. In fact, one of his friends had posted just a couple of months ago, said, no one has heard from you in months, and apparently your family's looking for you. I don't know if you're okay. The police still trying to pin down a specific motive. I think everyone has an understanding of what could be the motive. He had back surgery, had problems with it, and apparently didn't get the coverage he thought he should have. Has had relatives suffer, but his family was extremely wealthy. They could have paid for it out of pocket, whereas you and I probably couldn't. Now, if he was looking at doing it as a strike on behalf of all of those who are not wealthy and cannot have it done and can't get any help, then he probably thought, I'm striking out against the, as he called them at one point, referred to them as the, let me get the right term because I don't want to use it incorrectly. Well, I don't see it here on this page, but basically he was referring to them healthcare companies, especially if they're denying any kind of care that the patient thought they needed, or even doctors thought they needed, that they were basically feasting on them, that they were parasites, words to that effect. So the guy gets noticed in a McDonald's restaurant. He gets noticed by some patrons and one of the employees because while he's eating and even maybe using a straw to drink through, he pulls his face mask down, his, quote, COVID mask, to unveil enough of his face that some of them think, that looks like the guy they want in New York. He was arrested in Altoona, Pennsylvania. Now charged with murder, 2 counts of second-degree criminal possession of a weapon, 1 count of second-degree possession, forged document. Apparently had numerous passports on him, several obviously fake. They have not given a lot of details of what they have found about his house and his movements before and immediately after. They do have released word that the gun he had used was a ghost weapon. This would be one that would be created using the ability to make it on your own using plastics. 3D. There has been a fear for some time that 3D weapons, if they're produced, then can be transported through airports or into secure areas. And that has to be a real concern anyway, but he didn't do it for that reason. He did it because apparently he didn't want to go apply for a gun. Maybe he couldn't. I don't know. Don't know his background at that point. Everything on his background looked pretty clean up till what supposedly happened in New York. And I will have to say again, he's simply charged. He's not convicted. They do say that as they approached him, he caused no trouble, gave up willingly. But you got a guy that had a wealthy family. He's not somebody just off the street that goes thuggish because he doesn't see any chance for advancement in life at all. I mean, this guy had it all. If you missed our interview in the preceding hour with Dr. Carol Lieberman, we discussed the kind of character that he might represent. And then the other after effect of this shooting is that how many others are jumping on the bandwagon to condemn healthcare insurance companies, maybe rightly so, but also rejoicing over the murder of the healthcare CEO. I would understand if it's your family or your child and they needed surgery, the health insurance would not pay for it. I would certainly understand people being pushed to that brink. But there's nothing in here that indicates he was in that situation. But that might also explain why so many are willing to come out and say, we have joy and we're happy that the healthcare CEO was gunned down. We will continue to follow that story because it's got a lot of repercussions still to come. In the next hour, I want you to hear from Elon Musk reference the internet and what he thought of it years ago and where it is now. And also the latest in Syria. Please stand by.
You are listening to Larry Connors, USA.
Wellington Environmental knows this is a rough time for many people, just struggling to make ends meet, and here come the holidays. Wellington is an advisor to the Salvation Army Gateway Citadel. They need more bell ringers, and Wellington has some spots in South County you could help fill. If you sign up 6 or more to ring a bell for at least an hour, Wellington Environmental will make a customized sign to sit on top of the red kettle for free. Put your company name, your team name, your family name, whatever you want. Call Wellington, 314-644-4930. 644-4930. WellingtonSTL.com does the same thing. WellingtonSTL.com. Ring a bell this season and help others. One of the greatest pleasures in life is giving. Giving something special to someone just because. Vincent's Jewelers can help you, and you should know that Vincent's has helped raise almost $2 million for local charities. Vincent's Jewelers, St. Louis's premier, full-service, locally owned jewelry store. Check VincentsJewelers.com every day for new items. VincentsJewelers.com. My only jeweler, VincentsJewelers.com. I want you to know that McGuire Moving and Storage is silver certified, which means McGuire has a quality reputation helping older adults move local or long distance. And something else to know, Josh McGuire, president of McGuire Moving and Storage, is the only certified moving consultant in Missouri. I'll tell you, once you met Josh, you're going to know your move will be easy. And I fully endorse McGuire Moving and Storage. McGuireMoving.com.
This is News Talk STL.
Well, they used to make a living off a bathtub gin. When the hippie showed up, weed was in. Well, they profit off of weakness and they always have. Now meth is a recipe for cold hard cash. Something's cooking and it just ain't right. Hell's Kitchen gonna burn tonight.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
This is a historic day for the Middle East. The collapse of the Assad regime, the tyranny in Damascus offers great opportunity, but also is fraught with significant dangers. This collapse is a direct result of our forceful action against Hezbollah in Iran, Assad's main supporters. It set off a chain reaction of all those who want to free themselves from this tyranny and its oppression. But it also means we have to take action against possible threats. One of them is the collapse of the Separation of Forces Agreement from 1974 between Israel and Syria. This agreement held for 50 years. Last night it collapsed. The Syrian army abandoned its positions. We gave the Israeli army the order to take over these positions to ensure that no hostile force embeds itself right next to the border of Israel. This is a temporary defensive position until a suitable arrangement is found. Equally, we send a hand of peace to all those beyond our border in Syria, to the Jews, to the Kurds, to the Christians, and to the Muslims who want to live in peace with Israel.
That is, of course, Benjamin Netanyahu talking about what's happened in Syria with the toppling of the government, Assad fleeing the country, running to Russia for protection. And he was talking about, we have taken over a post previously held by Syria. We're taking it over temporarily because it's some high ground and they want to have it, and they can see directly into Damascus 40 miles away and hit it with rockets if necessary. He's made it very clear that we're willing and wanting to work with this new Syrian government, but if they plan on threatening our security, we will fiercely respond. The group that really drove Bashar Assad out is known as HTS. It is a terrorist organization as listed by the Biden administration. And right now the Biden administration is saying, we see no reason right now to change that terrorist designation. We'll wait and see what they do. And then you got Antony Blinken coming forward and saying the U.S. will recognize and fully support a new Syrian government if it's chosen by the Syrian people and adheres to four things. One, fully respect the rights of minorities. Two, facilitate the flow of humanitarian assistance to all in need. Three, prevent Syria from being used as a base for terrorism. And four, ensure that any chemical or biological weapon stockpiles are secured and safely destroyed. Well, I don't know what's happening with many of those commitments he's expecting, except when he began with fully respect the rights of minorities, there are already reports of women, and in fact, a Christian woman trying to leave her home in Syria, ordered back inside. Women are not allowed on the streets unless you're fully veiled and covered. But again, that's not taking an offensive action against Israel or the U.S. John Kirby says, we've got to watch and see what they're actually going to do. We're not at a point now where we can have a serious discussion with anyone at this point, so we're not going to delist DHS, or rather DTS, HTS, as a terrorist-designated group. It will remain to be that until otherwise. But the way this went down, as to one day you've got Assad in power, and yet very shaky, and he knew the day was coming. That's why he fled. And then in this NBC News report documents what happened.
Tonight, with Syria convulsed in revolutionary chaos, its neighbor Israel taking decisive action. Israeli warplanes carrying out strikes across the country, leaving this airbase near Damascus in flames, according to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights. The target, Israel says, military sites, including the Assad regime's stockpiles of chemical and biological weapons, which it fears could fall into the hands of extremists.
The only interest we have is the security of Israel and its citizens.
Bashar al-Assad, Syria's toppled dictator, used chemical weapons against his own people during 13 bloody years of civil war. President Obama threatened strikes in response.
A red line for us is we start seeing a whole bunch of chemical weapons moving around or being utilized.
But didn't follow through.
No, he did not follow through. He threatened them, but he didn't do anything. Then when Trump was in office, there were 2 strikes ordered against Syria. We still have, at last report, 900 to 1,000 U.S. troops in Syria on bases that we have control of for now. And, of course, also waiting to see what the new leaders of Syria will be doing. Israel is reporting that it has destroyed the Syrian naval fleet, which I don't know if it amounted to any more than rowboats, but either way, it's been destroyed. And as far as what's going to happen to the people that are there, they have a group known as the White Helmets, the Syrian Civil Defense Group. They've been trying to help those caught in the midst of this, and they are now sending out a call to Russia to pressure al-Assad to reveal locations of secret prisons they have across Syria. These are prisons they put in place for these decades that he was truly brutal against his own people. Supposedly, some of these prisons included brutality and crimes committed against Syrians, killing, detention, torture. And some of these black holes go back as far as 1970s. One of them was the Sanaya prison, if I pronounced it correctly, known as the slaughterhouse, where as many as 13,000 were hanged between 2011 and 2015. Syrian rebels did free many of them over this weekend. But some of those who had been detained had been there for so long, they had forgotten their own names. One included a woman detained when she was 19, had 3 children while she was in prison because she was raped repeatedly. Her children had never seen outside the walls of the prison until now. And others had been in so long they just lost their minds. It's hard to even begin to imagine their relief now that they're out. The other thing about Syria falling, Iran was using Syria as another buffer against Israel, as they were Lebanon. And with Lebanon now, with the Hezbollah forces almost decimated by Israel, maybe Iran was looking to Syria and Assad. And they're upset. They're upset that he ran off for cover with Russia. Retired General Jack King says this could be a death knell for Iran.
Iran is really back on their heels. I think it provides an unbelievable opportunity for the Trump administration, in conjunction with Prime Minister Netanyahu and the allies in the region, to issue an ultimatum once he becomes president to the supreme leader. And that should say to him, stand down and dismantle your nuclear enterprise. IAEA inspectors, regional inspectors, to include Israel and the United States, will help to verify. Stop supporting your proxies in the region and tell them to stand down. No more arms, no more support whatsoever.
That's huge.
If not, the alternative is this. Number one, the toughest sanctions the United States can impose will bankrupt your economy. I promise to do it. Number two, in conjunction with Israel, or if Israel wants to do it by themselves, surgical critical strikes to take down your nuclear enterprise.
And he added that then we'll all go after your normal munitions and weapons. And Trump will do that. So Iran has reason to be fearful. The people in Iran who want freedom, be free of the Iran Revolutionary Guard, the Ayatollahs, and how they're being dictated to, they would love to see that happen. Iran realizes it's got to step back a bit. If Trump had not been elected, this could go in an entirely different direction. And bear in mind, all of this is happening, and Trump isn't even in office yet. Of course, we have many on the left that can't wait for him to get in because they're going to do everything they can to destroy him, regardless of what good he might bring for our nation and the world. There are things that Trump has done and said that I don't fully agree with, and I've made it pretty clear. I'm not a Trump forever. It depends on circumstances and various issues. We'll stand back. Here comes one. Sometimes it is hard to tell whether Trump is serious or he's simply trolling the left and even members on the right. If that's his game, Rachel Madcow is sucking it up.
President-elect himself is still selling stuff during the transition as well. Literally, since the election, he has been rolling out new products and hawking stuff online. He's still selling the Bibles and the watches and the sneakers and the commemorative coins and whatever. But since the election, he has branched out into selling commemorative guitars. Literally, since winning the election and becoming president-elect, he started selling guitars. This weekend, he literally started selling smells. New Trump fragrances, Trump-branded odors in a bottle. He's doing new product launches for this stuff while also expertly managing the presidential transition, which is going just great. And the news, sometimes intrudes on this comedy of errors and embarrassment.
I think in this case he's really trolling people like Rachel, and I'm glad. Am I in favor of him selling Trump Bibles or watches or sneakers? No. But he can do what he wants. Free country. And these perfumes, the Trump perfume, there's a his and her. There's not a transgender perfume. Sorry, you folks got left out of that one. But he is offering a Trump, eau de Trump, male, eau de Trump, female. I think it's silly. I think it's beneath him to do it. That's why I don't know even if he's just doing it to troll everyone. Have some fun with it. Not going to make a lot of money on it. I'm not going to be buying any. You buy one, give me one for Christmas. Maybe I'll use it. Maybe I'll just keep it as an artifact. Because you never know what's coming down the road, do you? A perfect example of someone that has a pretty good idea of what might be coming in the future is someone who made a prediction back in 1998. Elon Musk was being asked about the internet. This is 1998.
What do you see as the future of the internet?
I think the internet is the superset of all media. It is the be-all and end-all of media. One will see print, broadcast, arguably radio, essentially all media folding into the internet. And what the internet amounts to is it's the first two-way communication medium that is intelligent. It allows consumers to choose what they want to see, when they want to see it, and whether that be radio, whether that be print, whether that be television, broadcast. I think it's going to revolutionize all traditional media.
And I think it has. I think it also spelled victory for Trump. When his son Barron suggested, Dad, you need to reach the younger people. You need to go on Joe Rogan, and you need to go on a couple of the others that are followed by the younger generation, those of my age. I think they'd be susceptible to hearing your message. And he picked up a great number of young people in posting the highest popular vote ever for a presidential candidate for Republicans. Now, it's like anything. How's it going to be used going forward? We already know how it's been abused and used against people and children in particular. But as far as the news, it's correct. Many people don't go to their TV news anymore. They get it off of their iPhone or computer or whatever internet source they want. Which reminds me, you can always get this program on app on your phone, NewsTalkSTL, absolute free app, and you can listen to us from anywhere. Got a daughter down in Miami that does that on a regular basis. Got friends all over the nation that do it. They're outside our great FM signals, but they can still go to NewsTalkSTL app, get it free. They can listen to the program while we're on the air, or they can pull it up later. As always, thank you for joining us. The Allman Report coming up next. And remember our pledge, one nation under God.
You can follow Larry on Larry Connors USA Facebook. Larry Connors USA Facebook. This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.